Hey, what's up, everyone? Today we're going to be speaking with Steven Vigilante from Olipop. He's their director of growth. He was also their first employee and a big contributing factor from taking Olipop to pre-launch to over $200 million in revenue last year. We spend about an hour talking to Steven about TikTok, Amazon, out of home, all of the different growth strategies that is propelling the brand to basically encroach on Pepsi and Coke's market share today. If you like the episode, subscribe down below and stay tuned for more content. Hope you enjoy. Dude, it's great to catch up with you though. It's been a little while. Olipop has done a ton of things. You're obviously on the founding team at Olipop. I'm excited to talk to you today, talk through growth. I was just in Miami. I saw all of the out-of-home stuff that you're doing there. It's actually Lexi who produces the podcast. She lives in Miami too. Lexi, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the out-of-home stuff that Olipop's running all over Brickell.
We're doing a marketing offsite down there next week. I haven't seen any of our billboards in person yet because we did Chicago in October, and we have 4 more cities we're doing this year. So I'm pumped. It's cool. They look really good. The creative's awesome. So
creative's great. What I want to talk to you about today is like kind of how your perspective on growth has changed as the business has expanded into different sort of retailers. It's kind of grown out of, the original grassroots strategies that you guys had, and, how you've adapted to that. Give us a quick update on like where Olipop is today, just to kind of center the conversation, and then we can kind of move from there.
Yeah, business grew, 2 years ago, 30 million last year, or 2 years ago, 30 million, a year ago, 73 million. Then we just finished it right around 200 for 2023. And by our research and estimation, it's the fastest growing beverage company in America and the most revenue any beverage brand has done in the footprint that we're in. So a lot of, most of the brands in the last decade have hit like 200 million in sales have been in 60 to 80,000 stores. We did it in 28,000. And so our kind of efficiency and velocity per account is, has never, by my estimation, has never happened before. And, it's been wild, and I still think we're just scratching the surface. We've got like 10% household penetration, like 18% unaided awareness. And, there's still so much white space out there. And we're, this year, the big push is going to be the club channel, Costco, Sam's, and convenience. So 30% of soda in the country is bought and sold in the convenience store channel. And, for us, it's great that we're doing so well in Whole Foods and Walmart and Target, but to really scale and hit that mass audience and really prove that we can be a real player in the beverage landscape, we've got to show that convenience can work for us.
And just describe to us like your role at Olipop and how that's changed over time.
Yeah, so I was the first employee. I came from the venture capital world, so I was kind of brought in to do fundraising originally. Had never worked at a beverage startup before, and I've kind of got this like head of growth role. I feel like I'm the tip of the spear, pushing the business in new directions every year and kind of helping thread the needle between sales and marketing to make sure the marketing efforts are really driving the sales initiatives of the business. And I think every business needs good connectivity between sales and marketing. I think a lot of businesses actually fail at that. And so I've overseen everything. I feel like that a lot of people have seen out in the world, whether it's when we launched e-com a couple of years ago, right before COVID, and then got into the world of influencer marketing, podcast advertising, and then the world of celebrity. I brought Camilla in as an investor and helped kind of architect that deal in the brand campaign we launched with her last year. And then, we leaned in really heavily on TikTok 2 years ago. I launched that for us and still kind of oversee it. And then the last 18 months have been really pushing us into what I would call channels that have been really historically owned by legacy soda brands and have been impossible to reach for better for you brands. So that's, sports venues, fast casual restaurants, the music industry kind of broadly. And so I don't know, I almost kind of view myself as like director of culture to some extent, like just looking where the world is going and where we need to go as a business and how we continue to reach new audiences in authentic ways. And then who the right partners are to help us tell those stories in these different channels. So director of growth and
What
talent
sort of
is the role, but it's ever evolving every 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, Olipop's been on this crazy growth trajectory, some of the fastest sales velocity in recent history in the United States. And you're basically leveraging marketing to help guide and accelerate those sorts of sales initiatives. I'm just curious, coming from the investing world, how did that shape your view of like the sorts of marketing activities that Olipop should be doing? You guys have been a market leader in a lot of different avenues. I would say you guys have definitely like owned TikTok as a channel and done really well there. Um, and now you're doing more of the traditional out of home type initiatives that a Coca-Cola or Pepsi would do. Um, yeah, how is your kind of perspective changing as you guys have grown?
Yeah. So to the first question on the kind of investing background. So I worked at a seed fund investing in better for you consumers. So I was meeting with, 20 to 30 entrepreneurs a week for 3 years. I was at every trade show and I was just like a sponge, honestly, for like how the successful brands were growing and what they were doing. And then, I also saw a lot of brands that like grew really fast to 20 or 30 million of revenue at Whole Foods and then made the jump to Target and Walmart and fizzled out. And I think a lot of brands, fall victim to that. A lot of better for you brands, just from a price or a taste perspective or just a communications and marketing perspective, like can't reach that mainstream audience. Um, and we had this inflection point in 2022 where we launched, we were nationwide at Whole Foods, Sprouts, and like half the Krogers, but we were in Q1 of 2022 we launched Target and then Publix and then HEB and then Walmart, almost all doors for all of them. So jumped from like 8,000 to 20,000 accounts within a 6 month period. And it was really scary, to be honest. I wasn't sure if we were ready for that consumer yet. And, you know, serendipitously, we had like just dove into TikTok at the time. And I think personally, TikTok is what has really helped us in those channels. Like we kind of shifted away from what I would call typical influencer marketing, which is skews New York, LA, Miami, the wellness kind of crowd, discount code, swipe up, buy this now. And then when we started looking at TikTok, I was like, you can't really do that type of advertising on TikTok. The super salesy stuff doesn't work. Discount codes don't work at all on TikTok. And we kind of found this lane of like unhealthy foodies is what I would call it, where, creators who are, generally 18 to 24, live in random parts of the country. They're not in major cities, and they're shopping at Walmart and Publix and Target, and they're doing mukbangs and fast food reviews and grocery hauls. And my whole strategy with that was like, I don't want an ad from you. I want to sponsor your content. So I want to just show up in your normal videos because you're making content that we want to align with. Like we like pairing Olipop with unhealthy food. It kind of it makes the connection that viewers head that like this isn't just a health product, right? It is a health product, but we view it as a soda and like a product that tastes like a soda and acts like a soda and has a full flavor experience. And so pairing it with like less healthy people is actually part of the strategy. And it's we've done 2 billion views on those type of videos across TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook in the last 2 years. And I think the velocities at Target and Walmart kind of speak for themselves at this point. It seemingly has worked very well for us. And so just growing the brand up and trying to reach a broader audience than just that kind of health and wellness focused label reader at Whole Foods.
Okay, and you would attribute a lot of that success and your success moving into retail to how you guys approach TikTok as a channel. Can you just touch on how important you think that channel is for consumer brands and CPG?
It's
obviously
been critical. Yeah, it's actually wild to see how correlated TikTok views are to Google search traffic. It's actually insane. It's almost a perfect correlation. Like a month where we have, some months we do 50 million views on TikTok. We've had months where we do 250 million views. Average month is like 100 million, call it. And the Google search traffic moves directly in lockstep. And to me, personally, I think Google search is the best, especially organic search is the best measure of just like overall brand awareness. And it's where the journey starts, right? They see it on TikTok, they search for the product, they need to learn a little bit about it online, and then hopefully they go into a store and pick it up, or they're shopping in the aisles and like, oh, that's the thing I've seen on TikTok. And we had a period of time last year where we like cut back spend on TikTok and we were doing some other things, and it was, it's very clearly correlated to me. And for us, it's like TikTok seems very good for top of funnel, but we're not doing a lot of storytelling on there. It's really product placement, just like showing up in videos and, using a hashtag in the comments. But where we're kind of moving to this year and where we started to do some last year was a lot more of the like middle of the funnel consideration, more brand building storytelling stuff with creators where they're actually talking about the product and talking about how good it tastes and, doing blind taste tests with their partner at home or whatever. And so, I think we have a lot of people who've seen it online, but like don't necessarily know how good it tastes or that there's all these functional benefits. And so I see this big opportunity for us in the middle of the funnel to work with people in a bit more deeper way, whether it's an influencer or a music artist or an athlete, and actually like tell the Olipop story a little bit more and get the point across that it does taste good. Because I think there's this inherent skepticism with consumers that they see something all over the internet. There's lots of marketing, like they feel like they're being sold to maybe. And there's also an inherent skepticism around low sugar drinks, right? I think a lot of low sugar drinks don't taste great or make all these promises about the benefits or what it's doing for you. And don't necessarily deliver on it, and the product's always higher priced. So you have this like hurdle, and for us, the hurdle is just getting people to try it. And so, we're going to lean in pretty heavily in that like middle of the funnel bucket this year.
That's smart. That I think logically that makes a lot of sense. So when you first approached TikTok, the strategy was just like volume. Like let's just get this can into as many hands as possible so people can see it. It was like brand affinity, brand awareness.
That was
How
the
did you
second
architect
part
that?
of it, honestly. But my initial thinking was like, you can do all you want on creators pages, but people don't leave the app. So if they click through to your brand and they come to your brand account and they see terrible content or no content in some cases, you lose them, right? And so we had to figure out the organic stuff on our page first, and that was like a 6-month journey. And met this girl Sarah Crane. She was doing stuff on TikTok, and I was trying to find someone with like 5 to 15,000 followers, posting constantly. Maybe not a full-time thing, but they were in platform a lot and really understood the lingo and the trends and the audios. And it was very serendipitous. I like commented on one of her videos on the Olipop account and it blew up, and reached out to her, and she had a bunch of good ideas for content for our page. And turned out she worked at an agency that did TikTok content for other CPG brands. So it was like kind of found a needle in a haystack. And so brought her in, and she started making content for our page. And then actually another creator we were working with, his sister was just graduating college and she was making TikToks, and she sent me some videos for us and they were great. So we brought her on as well. And so we had to get our page dialed in before we really leaned into the creator stuff, because it all works in a circle, right? It's like, and we get all comments a lot. Like when a big creator video pops off, we'll get comments on our page like, came from Kayla's video, came from Mia's video. And like, if your content's not good, they're not going to stick around, right? So having that full kind of loop in there where our content on our page is good and funny and educational and relevant. And then, we have this kind of always on creator network posting Olipop constantly, and it all kind of works together.
Okay, cool. So just walking that back in terms of how you architected it, it's like you start with basically creating your own page that, actually has good content, it plays in the space. Then you actually go out for, they're not even affiliates, it's just other creators who want to engage and, create other content for the brand. And now you're getting to a place where the next layer is storytelling.
Yeah.
And are those paid engagements? How are you thinking through like budget for TikTok for the brand? And for you, do you consider TikTok like a level of performance marketing for Olipop?
So the creators who are constantly posting Olipop, we do pay. Yeah. We always include the Olipop partner hashtag in there. So, we meet the legal guidelines. I can tell you that because we're just doing product placement instead of like a scripted ad, it is much more cost efficient for us. Like I'll get 5 product placements for the cost of what one ad would cost, because they're not doing anything different. It's like they're able to make money on a video they were going to post anyway, basically just by including us in it. So it's kind of a win-win for both sides. And I don't actually view it as, I think, what your audience would consider a performance channel. We're not ever running any messaging towards our site or buy this now. We're doing plenty of mentioning of where we are in retail. So it's maybe a retail performance channel, I guess. But I view it more as like an awareness. Like I measure TikTok every month based on what we're spending and how many views and impressions we're driving. So it's really like a CPM channel for me. And those 2 billion views we've done have been at a sub-dollar CPM, which like really blows people's minds. Like we do it very efficiently. And
you have scale too, which is crazy.
Yeah, it could be a lot bigger, to be honest. I think we spend a decent amount, but it's a lot less than I think people would imagine it is, based on like what I know about what other brands who are smaller than us spend on Facebook every month trying to acquire customers, we're spending a fraction of that. We're
Do
not
you do you guys spend or do you spend at all anymore on Meta or any traditional digital acquisition channels like paid social?
Yeah, we do. I did an ad age interview like a year ago where I kind of said we had shut down every other channel and gone all in on TikTok, and we had for a period of time. But we brought in like a legit media director, Sarah, who's awesome, and she kind of owns all things paid social, out of home, TV, YouTube, and
There's
we
a place
obviously are
for it.
doing Google. We do a lot of boosting of stuff on TikTok and Instagram. We do some like geofence paid around retailer launches in specific markets we're trying to focus on, as well as these like blitzes, right? We have out of home we're doing in Miami right now, so we're doing some paid down there. None of it is really driving to the site, to be honest. It's more like 90% of the business is retail at this point, and it's
It's
really
retail
the name of the
advertising.
game. So
Yeah.
it's all various forms of paid that help drive traffic into stores.
So going back to TikTok real quick. So these storytelling initiatives, these are like more traditional creator partnerships where you're actually scripting things out with them, or are you kind of just placing it? You're kind of just engaging with them and say, hey, come up with a concept, but you need to talk about these certain things.
Yeah, we have a
Tell us a
bunch
little bit
of
more
kind
about
of
that.
buckets we try to play in there. We've got the people who talk about digestive health and can lean into the functional benefits and the fiber and prebiotics. And then we've got your more like traditional foodie creators who are just talking about food and fast food and are talking about how good it tastes. And then, we have this like kind of ever overarching strategy of like, at the end of the day, we are trying to get people to switch off of like traditional soda or diet soda. And so we're always looking for creators who maybe talk about their love for that product and getting them to switch to Olipop. And so there's a number of different variables. And then we have a gal internally who manages kind of the influencer side of that, and then I kind of focus a bit more on like talent and music artists and athletes and professional sports teams, and that's like a different type of storytelling, right? And oftentimes we're doing a production, or if an artist has something in their life that perfectly aligns with one of those buckets we're going after, we'll kind of try to come up with a concept. We're about to launch in a big convenience store chain based out of Philadelphia. So we're working with a music artist who's pretty big now, who's based out of Philadelphia, and there's an audience way over indexes there. And she's going to make this like really cool video featuring the retailer and Olipop and kind of showing love for Philadelphia. So there's like varying degrees of it, but always with the notion of like trying to be as organic to their feed as we can. We often try to work with their creative teams on these things instead of like plugging in our team, because we want it to feel native to their platform, right? It's got to work on their page. I see so many brand deals where it's just like can in screen, and it looks
Yeah,
so
it's like so
paid and
forced.
forced, and it works. I'm sure it works for some brands. I try to keep everything as, I don't think people want to be sold to. I just think more so than ever
No,
people are aware of it. And so if you get a good organic partnership right, people love it, and they like recognize that it's an ad. But we had this baseball player named Alek Manoah who he's a pitcher for the Blue Jays, like kind of Cy Young candidate, but he's from Miami. He trains there in the offseason. He's a huge Olipop fan. And he actually came to us with this idea, like, hey, these billboards, like, what if I was like walking down the street in Brickell holding a strawberry vanilla and I started chugging it and the camera panned out and the strawberry vanilla billboards right behind us? I was like, boom, done. We, turned that around in 3 days, and he shot it and posted it last week. And it was super cool. And there was like tons of good comments on it about Olipop, and people liked it, right? So it's content. It was his idea. It was great.
well, that's a flywheel, I think, just on the brand marketing side, where when you kind of really are comfortable in your own skin and who you are as a business, and there are these organic partnerships that really work well because that other person can interpret your brand and then integrate it into the content, it just performs better.
Totally.
I think to your point, the brands that are forcing things, people don't want to be sold to anymore. It
Yeah.
feels inauthentic. And, that's where you get new brands who are super fast growing because they're, better selling to people.
It's
The
where
ways that
these
they
like
want to,
D2C brands, I think, are all running into trouble. Is like, e-commerce is huge, but the majority of people still shop in store, and they tap out on their customer acquisition funnel online, and then they got to go to retail, and it's a completely different game, and they don't know how to play the CPM game. And they've been running so much performance marketing for so long that they never really built a brand, and they were always selling to their lowest hanging fruit, and they weren't hitting those people that are like 2 and 3 standard deviations outside of their core customer base. And, that's a tough hill to climb, right? Like, and you
it's a
really need a brand to win in retail. Like it has to, and you have people that you have to hit 7-8 times to get to pick it up. And when all you've been doing is this like performance marketing drug, and then you got to invert the business overnight, it's really hard to do that.
For
That's why a
sure.
lot of these DSC brands don't work in retail.
Well, it's a philosophical difference too. Like it's just a different school of thought. And I think to your point, yeah, paid media becomes a drug. I was just talking about this the other day. But their idea of like brand building is developing a direct response ad that performs well on the channel and is scalable. But there's really no depth in that.
Yeah. And they're
So
such
to your point,
product
it's a
driven ads, right? And there's not usually much emotion in them or humor or the things that people really remember. And it's a good way to get people to buy something once, but then it's like, how do you keep them coming back?
even the best direct consumer brands today, I think, ones that we've spoken to on this podcast, like actually we have Arjun from Jolie next week. Like, it was really like a brand building effort in building Jolie. And I think it's very similar to what you were talking about in scaling Olipop's TikTok. Just like, how do people want to create UGC and just create it for the sake of creating it to create more conversation? That in turn is driving e-commerce sales.
Yeah.
So couldn't agree more there. I'm curious what your take is on TikTok Shop. Are you guys on it? How do you think about marketplaces? I want to talk about Amazon as well, but just since we've been talking about TikTok, how are you guys thinking about TikTok Shop? Maybe not if it's relevant
I don't
for
have good
Olipop,
insight.
but
We're on there. I don't know a ton about it. I know it's doing okay for us. We played around on Flip, and I would say Amazon's something we underinvested in the last couple of years and are aggressively trying to fix that. I think underinvesting in the place where 45% of online shopping starts was maybe not the smartest move on our side, and just a combination of like a lot going on and not enough resources and all that jazz. But it's something we're putting a lot of focus and attention into this year.
yeah, for sure. Amazon's crucial for beverage.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's so much demand already for your product there too.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, there is. It's, I wish we had put more effort in earlier, but it's okay. We can fix it.
yeah, I mean, you guys got a lot of irons in the fire. I don't
Yeah,
think
I mean,
I don't think you're doing too bad.
200 million plus, much higher on a run rate perspective, and we only have 110 employees. I think it always surprises people. A lot of brands our size have 200 to 300 employees, and we've had a laser focus on getting to profitability the last 12 months, and that's not par for the course in beverage, as I'm sure you know. So we've had to make tactical decisions, and I think it's made us a lot more efficient. Like, people are always shocked, investors, when they see our marketing spend and our trade spend. We're on a pretty tight ship here, and now that the world has shifted and capital is more scarce and the strategics are not buying things as early as they used to, like, you have to be able to not rely on the drug of venture capital to keep the thing alive. So that's been a strategic decision we've made that some of our competitors have not made, and we'll see how it pans out for them.
So profitability is a big focus for this year. What else is kind of on your mind in terms of having another breakout year for Olipop?
I mean, so we got a couple case studies last year. We launched with Sweet Green. That was kind of our first big fast casual partner. It's exceeded expectations by 3x, I would say, based on what they wanted us to do in there. Both sides are very happy. We're looking at some really large partnerships in that space that could be very interesting for us. Sports has been interesting to dive into. We did a deal with the Kansas City women's soccer team last year, which I think some people felt was random, but Hy-Vee is based there, which is like kind of the Wegmans of the Midwest. And candidly, they had an opening in beverage, and they're building their own stadium that opens in this upcoming season here in March, and it's the first women's only soccer stadium in the country, actually. So we got in with them last year as a marketing partner because we weren't blocked out yet by a Coke or Pepsi, and we're now grandfathered into their new stadium that's opening. So it'll be our first in stadium distribution opportunity. But that then opened up the doors for me in the sports world. Once we announced it, I got flooded with emails and LinkedIn messages from other sports teams, and most have a Coke or Pepsi contract that precludes us from working with them. But I found two others that do not. And I can't say exactly who they are yet because we haven't announced it, but they're major, and they are, to me, massive wins for the business, and will really help us tell this story that Olipop is a player in the sports space. And as more Coke and Pepsi deals, come, most of those deals are 3 to 5 years. So once something expires or is expiring, we have an opportunity to kind of get in there. And so, that's, we're going to make a lot of noise in that space, I will tell you, this year. And then music. So Camilla was obviously our first iteration there. We've got a number of music artists on our cap table. I've gotten to know the record labels really well. I've got a better understanding of just how the music industry works. It's very convoluted and complicated, but we're going to lean in pretty hard in the country space. Actually, this year we're sponsoring a big country music artist who's going on tour in a few months. I'm really excited about that. It's totally new and different for us, and it's a whole creative challenge. But and then we've got kind of this like up and coming Gen Z country artist we're working on something else with. So new world for me. I'm not a country fan, but I am learning my way through it, and I think it's going to be an awesome new audience for us.
You have any frameworks for this, Steve? Because, since I've known you too, you've always been pushing the envelope in terms of like what the business should be doing from a marketing perspective without like, necessarily knowing how it's going to perform. You're taking risks. So I'm just curious if you use anything to kind of guide you in that decision-making process.
Yeah. Actually, somebody asked me that question the other day, and I kind of put some thought into it. I feel like there's like, call it the Coke and Pepsi partners out there that are like the thing that's the biggest thing right now and is the top dollar thing you can do and has the chance of moving the needle a lot, but also is a huge expensive bet for a brand like us, and would chew up like most of our budget we have for talent. And that's like, I'm talking about celebrities that are like $3 to $5 million plus to work with. And I'm kind of looking for the next big thing, whether it's in NASCAR or in music or in, even in sports, right? Soccer is having a moment right now, and it's really grown, both men's and women's. And, we can't really afford to do a deal with like an NFL team, to be honest. And I don't think it would make sense for us dollars and cents wise, but soccer's exploding and the World Cup's coming here in 2 years. And we've got, Messi's first full season. And, I'm looking for the next big thing, right? I want the artist who's got an awesome, kind of niche community right now that loves them within their circle, but is not a household name yet. And candidly is someone that we can afford and do something really interesting with at a price point that doesn't break us, but is not so big that they've got like a huge team around them already and, is going to cost $1 zillion even just to get to a shoot and all those things. So I'm kind of like, it sounds really basic, I guess, but like I'm looking for, there's like the Coke and Pepsi
you have
deals
like crazy
and
leverage.
the Olipop deals. It's like, I always try to, the frame I use is like, what's the Olipop POV on this, right? And even like I've noticed, obviously in the last 5 years, I'm sure you've seen it, there's lots of brands who copy things we do, and we've done things and other brands do them. And, I'll talk about something in the media or on social and people will run that direction. Then I'm looking at the next big thing. So it's like, or I'm thinking about what's something unique that people can't copy, or it would take 6 more months for them to copy. And even our TikTok strategy, I was very vocal about a year ago, and I've seen a lot of brands try to emulate that. And we're, obviously diversifying away from that. We ran our first big TV campaign with Camilla last year that performed really well. So we are definitely going to have a very balanced approach to the plan this year.
So you mentioned Coke and Pepsi. They're obviously the two major players in this space. How has your relationship with them changed as you guys have like grown and become a major player in the soda space? And I think when you first started, you kind of shied away from being soda from a messaging perspective, and now it's like, nah, we are a soda. We're coming to take, to eat your lunch basically.
Yeah, we launched as like the packaging said sparkling tonic because we didn't think people at like Air One and Whole Foods would pick something up that said soda on it. It was very quickly apparent that was not the right messaging because it doesn't mean anything to anyone. And if anything, it sounds like bitter or gross. Like, what does a sparkling tonic mean? Like, I don't know. And it definitely doesn't invoke like Coca-Cola and root beer and grape. I didn't mean to say Coca-Cola, like classic cola. And so, we changed the packaging. We call it a new kind of soda now, very much leaning into the nostalgia vibes. But I've always said, like, we don't have any sort of grand ambition to like take Coke and Pepsi to zero. We know that's not going to happen. We ultimately will likely need to partner with one of them at some point. But I can tell you in these like sports deals I'm looking at and some of these music videos we've done, like they have blocked us, like there's teams that have wanted to work with us and have tried to carve our category out of an existing contract with one of those two, and they've flat out said no. Whereas a couple years ago, they maybe didn't even know who we were. We weren't on the radar. We're definitely on the radar now, and we're, I think, getting under some skin somewhere. They probably still view us as a rounding error, right? 200 million in a category of 40 billion in the US is nothing. But every day we chip away, and hopefully we'll be on, airplanes and in movie theaters and hospitals and all these places that, we've been more or less blocked out of, either by a contract or, just pricing, right? We're never going to be able to sell the product at as low a cost as
Give us an idea of the price discrepancy right now.
I mean, you can buy on a per unit basis when you're buying multi-packs of, call it Diet Coke, it's generally like 60 to 80 cents a can. And then if you're at like a 7-Eleven, right, you can buy a 44-ounce Big Gulp for like $1, which is wild. And Olipop is generally around $2.50 per can. So, and we don't have a fountain soda offering yet, but so we're generally like 3 to 4 times the price per unit. And that's retail price, right? When you're talking about these partnerships, we're talking wholesale pricing, but it all ladders up to the same thing.
Yeah. Damn. Wow. I had no idea Coke was that cheap.
I mean, it's like, look at the ingredients plus the scale of the companies, and the math starts to matter. Yeah. We're using there's 9 grams of plant-based fiber. There's 6 prebiotics in every Olipop. Like, that stuff is not cheap. It's not fake. It's not subsidized by the government.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's different. So I guess in terms of you were employee number 1 at the company. Obviously things have changed a lot. Has it, I mean, I just want to understand your expectations going into the venture and how it's gone. It's obviously been super successful, but can you just opine on that for a second?
Yeah, I mean, the number one theme I kind of noticed when I was in the investing world was better for you junk food is a thing, right? And you're not changing consumer behavior. You're not asking them to, swap out Doritos for kale chips, right? It's the things that are close analogs to the historically terrible things, but have better ingredients, whether it's Halo Top and ice cream, Smart Sweets and candy, Bonza and pasta, Simple Mills and Cheez-Its. You're not changing consumer behavior. You're just giving them a better mousetrap. And so when I first kind of saw Olipop, I was like, oh, this is a no-brainer. Everybody wants a root beer, but there's so many people who don't drink it anymore, or who are drinking it and upset about drinking it. And if someone made something that was not only less bad, but actually functionally beneficial and tasted like the real thing, I think it would be a huge idea. Hitting 200 million in revenue in 5 years in less than 30,000 doors. If you had ever told me that was the case, I would have told you you're crazy, because beverage brands don't grow like that. So I would say it's surpassed all of our wildest expectations. And I can tell you internally, we always thought it could be, $1 billion brand one day, but now it's I actually think $1 billion in revenue is possible at this point. There's 200,000 plus convenience stores in the country. We're not, we're in 200 of them right now, and we haven't sold a can outside the country. We don't even really have multi-packs. We just launched an 8-pack at Costco, but most soda is bought in multi-packs. We're doing it all through single cans in the refrigerator, which is insane. And so when I look at the white space and the upside in the business, Mexico and Latin America is the biggest soda market in the world. We're not even there yet. I think there's tons of demand. And even just having worked with Camilla, and a couple of people on our team come from the UK, including our co-founder, there's a massive demand for this product overseas that we haven't even touched yet. So
yeah,
I hate when people say we're just getting started. It's such a startup tagline, but I really kind of feel like that. Started. There's so much more room to grow here.
Yeah. So talk to me about international expansion though, because we talk to a lot of beverage founders who it seems like they move to they expand to the UK or France or the European markets pretty quickly. And obviously you guys have focused on density and just owning the States. What are your thoughts on expansion? Just geographically?
I actually view it as a red flag when people go abroad too quickly. It's very complicated, right? You either need to ship product from the US on boats, or you need to stand up a whole new supply chain in that market, neither of which are cost effective. And if a brand is doing it too early, I think it's a sign that they feel like they've tapped out on growth in the US. The primary reason we haven't done it is we've had trouble keeping up with inventory demands in the US. We have had pretty painful out of stock issues we fixed a lot of it last summer, but for the 18 months before that, it was constantly underproducing and overselling, and we were just growing so quickly. Like, built a plan, and you run, you built a forecast, and you build inventory to a forecast, and then you come in 2x over that demand wise. Like, what do you do? And so, why would we even consider going abroad when we had to figure out our supply chain here in the U.S.? And we've gotten that all under control now, but we have to win in C-store here, I think, before we even look at any other overseas market besides Canada. We just don't need it. And to some extent, you need to leave growth drivers on the table for a potential acquirer or whatever. And so if you like go and gobble up all that space, it makes it harder to buy the business because they need to make a case that they can grow it, right? So all those kind of factors play into it. But we're obviously looking at it. We've got really good partners ready in Latin America. We want to go there. I don't think we've really looked that hard at Europe yet, but we've grown from 70 to 200 million last year without it. We think we can, grow, triple digits again this year in the US. So it's a whole nother thing to deal with that, like, if you don't have to deal with it yet, just save it for later. The flip side says there's competitors, and if they get there first, what does that mean for us, right? We obviously think about those things, but the reality is the US is the biggest market and the most important. So
how big do you think Amazon can be as a channel? What is it like what's the revenue mix for you guys on Amazon right now?
It's pretty small, to be honest. I think D2C plus Amazon is 15% of the business. I go back and forth on this because we're in one of those weird categories where it's, low single digit dollars to buy it in store. It's $40 online, and people are trained to think everything is cheaper online. And we're obviously like much more expensive, not on a per unit basis, but just the total dollar number. And so, I struggle to see a world where there would be like a massive Amazon business for us. But the inverse of that is like Celsius is enormous on Amazon. Liquid Death has a huge online business. So there's case studies that prove that it's possible. I think it takes a lot of time and effort, and Amazon is a flywheel, right? And you got to build listings, and you got to spend money on ads. And, in a world where dollars are scarce, we just haven't invested as much in the channel. But I think it could be, a multi 10 digit business for us. No, that's not the right thing either. Multiple tens of millions, not 9 figures.
Yeah,
for us at least.
Multiple on the TikTok. Yeah, I know what you meant. On the TikTok side, I'm curious to hear your take on this. A lot of the Olipop content is like TikTok girly type stuff when you look at the feed. That's probably obviously a function of like your social media manager who is a girl. I'm just curious like how you think about that since it's such a large impression driving channel for the business.
I think a mistake a lot of brands make is trying to force like brand messaging on TikTok. Just the way the algo works, it's 80% of the people who see a piece of content are not your followers, right? If it hits the For You page. And so I have said this a zillion times, like content on TikTok has to be educating or entertaining to someone who has no idea who the brand is, right? That's the only way you can grow it. If you're just talking to yourself, if you're just talking about the benefits, if you're just doing recipe videos, like a stranger is not going to care about that. Instagram's super different, right? You're really nurturing your followers and your audience, and it's much more about aesthetic and a vibe and kind of pulling people closer once they're already in the funnel. But to me, TikTok is more for top of funnel, growing just overall awareness of the brand. And so we have very different KPIs, very different strategies for both. And, I think why TikToks work so well is we've let Sarah, like, it's her page, basically. Like, we let her do her thing. And if she has a funny idea or she wants to come film something with me, like we do it. But we try to stick more to like TikTok native content. And you see brand content so much that's just like cringy. And you're like, why would any normal person who doesn't know who you are care about this? And it's like a hard needle to thread, especially when you're first starting. You just got to like throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. But I think we've done a good job of having like TikTok and Instagram have like totally different personalities, totally different copy for everything. TikTok is much cheekier and feels a bit more Gen Z, I think. And Instagram is a bit more aesthetic and creative driven and is more like your homepage of your site, right? It's like you want to give like an overview of the brand, whereas TikTok is a bit more like funny and cheeky and off the wall.
Yeah, I hear you. Last question for you. You think there's like you have like a surprising or contrarian take on building a beverage brand that you'd want to share? If anything comes to mind.
I saw that question in your email and I've been thinking about it. I feel like I have a lot of contrarian takes. I'm struggling to think of one
You
right now.
definitely shared a lot today.
I
You
think
did,
just one
but
thing, like when I talk to early stage brands, like everybody wants to go really big, really fast, right? And like Walmart wants me and Target wants me, but like the reality is selling in is really simple. You can hire a good sales guy who can get your woman who can get you in, but like getting people into store to buy it is really the hard part. And like we didn't sell, people are always surprised by this, like we didn't sell a can of Olipop outside of California for 2 years. Like we spent 2 years in market in SF and LA doing demos, doing events, getting to know our customer. You know, we were like trying to figure out like, are people going to gravitate to the fruit flavors or the soda flavors? Are people going to know what a sparkling tonic is? We had our vintage cola was called cinnamon cola. And I'm just realizing I didn't put my trash out and the garbage truck is coming by. One
I didn't know it was cinnamon cola though. It's crazy.
Yeah, and we like totally realized that most people don't like cinnamon and wouldn't even pick it up. Not most people, 35% of people. So I feel like I need to. Well, let me bring the garbage cans out 1 second.
Yeah, do your thing, bro. We got time.
Well, I was like,
You got it, bro. You make it.
I got it.
You made it
By one house. This is my EA, by the way. So I'm gonna say hi.
The consultant.
This is my senior soda consultant. We're on camera.
What's his name?
This is Juliet.
Juliet.
She was a street dog. Now she's living life.
Very Mar Vista, Venice. So take us through that contrarian take real quick, Steve.
Yeah, I guess, and I don't know how contrarian it is. I just think it's good advice. Is like you have to know your customer, and we spent 2 years in the trenches doing sampling and demos, and like realizing that sparkling tonic didn't make sense for us. Cinnamon cola was off-putting to 35% of people who don't like cinnamon. I had no idea. People would always ask me if it tastes like Fireball. That was like the feedback we always got. And so, you know, we changed the packaging, we changed the flavor on that one to vintage cola, which was a little confusing to people. They thought it was a different SKU. It was the same thing, just different name. And like, you know, we actually like said no to Walmart for 3 years because we just didn't think the brand was ready for it. And, you know, building the brand brick by brick and going into the right channels at the right time is so important. And I think we did a good job of like staging the business out and doing things when we were ready to be able to support them both with, you know, dollars, but also with people and having people in market to support those various accounts. I probably have so much more, honestly. Like I'm pretty anti DTC in general. I think like everyone thinks it's like the name of the game, and like I don't think a lot of
I think that's changing though, especially in beverage. Like people buy on shelves. I think there's a massive case for Amazon for a lot of these businesses, but yeah, I mean, direct's just a way to like, you know, be a better digital marketer and like own the relationship with the customer, which you can flex on organic social. So
yeah. No,
I think you guys learned that.
It's like meet the people where they are, right? We're available on all these channels. We don't care if someone buys from us or Amazon or GoPuff or Instacart or Whole Foods or Target. Like it all matters. I think you have to have an omni-channel business. I know businesses that are multiple 9 figures and more than half of it's Amazon, and you know, I don't think acquirers want to buy that because there's too much channel risk there, right? If the algorithm changes tomorrow, your business could be in trouble. So again, I don't know how contrarian any of that is. I just think it's like a strong opinion.
It's good advice. Dude, thank you so much for coming on. I think you dropped a lot of wisdom today. I really appreciate it. We got to link up soon, either in LA or when you're back east.
I appreciate you having me, dude. This was a fun chit chat. I've been doing pods. I've been doing a bunch of pods lately.
I saw an in-person pod you did. I was jealous. I was like, we need to be doing
the one
that.
With Drew.
I don't know who I don't remember whose podcast it was. I just saw it on LinkedIn.
Drew has like celebrity packaged goods. He does like celebrity brands. But I did this like podcast. It was in December, I think. It's called Sporkful. I wasn't familiar with it, but it's like a Sirius XM podcast. Went to their offices, like crazy setup. I'd never been in a studio like that. And yeah, fun interview. Came out. You know, I kind of judge a lot of these things by like random people in my life who like send me them. You know, it's like, how do you know how big something is? And it didn't get much pickup. And then the host ended up on an NPR show called I don't know, Innovator or something. and they were like, "Yay, the podcast is going to be on innovators tomorrow," and I had no idea what that was. And it was just like a 10-minute. It's like a 10-minute NPR daily news podcast, and like they had him on there talking about his interview with me because they thought it was interesting about Olipop, and like my interview got clipped into this NPR thing, and like little did I know it's like a top 10 business podcast and gets like hundreds of thousands of downloads a day, and I had like probably like 70 people from all walks of my life reached out like, holy shit, you were on the indicator. Like, and I had no idea it was like happening. And you just never know. Like old people I've worked with 5-8 years ago, reaching out on LinkedIn, like sending it to me. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
That is definitely not going to happen on this podcast. Let me manage your expectations really quickly. We will give you some, great clips. And bro, at this point, you've done it all, man. I saw the HBR case study, so this is just good banter.
I like good banter. Yeah, the Harvard thing was wild. That was a surreal experience, honestly. Yeah, one of those things you like hype up in your head, and you're like, is this going to be as cool as it sounds? And it was cool. It was really well done. Professors were awesome.
You did a case like in front of the students, right? Or is it like a written
no
case?
It's not, I don't think what everyone thinks it is. So they have this like 1 week intensive course every January where they bring in like, I think it's 6 founders a day for the whole week. So there's 30 companies that come in, and each of them gets an hour. And we did a prep call with the professors and kind of like talked them through the business and things that were going right, things that we, had challenges with. And like, we kind of like, they had bulleted out a couple like business cases and problems that the students were supposed to think about, going into it. But it honestly ended up being like a consumer panel. So we had Olipop there, 125 students. Almost half had it and half had not. And they all tried it at the same time and like gave us live feedback, both the people who had it and like knew about it and what they knew about it and where they found it and what they, understood about prebiotics and stuff. And then the other 50%, a lot of international students, honestly, who hadn't had it and were giving us kind of first impressions on packaging and taste and flavor profile. And like, that was fascinating. Like, we've never done that before, right? A live 125 person cross sectional panel. And then
highly educated like business students.
What's that?
No, just like highly educated business students.
Yeah, like smart people. Some who
had
worked in consumer, some who hadn't. So it was like interesting. And then Ben kind of told the founder story, and they had actually reached out to me originally because they wanted to talk about TikTok. So I went and like kind of did the marketing spiel and talked about TikTok and how we use it and why we use it. And they did a really good job of like framing up like founder mission questions and for Ben. And I also do all of our fundraising here too. So like some of the fundraising stuff, and it was just like we could have gotten like 2 more hours. It felt like it was like we ran out of time, but it was really cool. It was a really cool experience. And I got a Harvard sweatshirt out of it. So most important.
That's what's important. Well, Steve, thanks so much, man, for coming on board. I'll hopefully I see you soon, man. I'll send you a text when I'm coming out to LA, and thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Cool.